Is my screen coming through okay?
I see it.
All right. We're going to start in 1 more minute. Okay. Thank you for coming today, and welcome to our third installment of Cogniac Government Services Emerging Technologies series. Today, we're going to talk about data mesh and freeing your data. Many of our customers, well, all of our customers are federal customers, and a lot of them are very large and have multiple organizations within them. So within each of those organizations, they usually have what we call data silos. So they create data and it's hard to share between organizations within that agency as well as outside of the agency. Data mesh really helps solve that problem. And today we're going to give you a taste of what data mesh is like. Okay, data mesh is more of a paradigm than it is a technology. It's used to manage data where enterprises apply a set of principles. The first one being domain decentralization. The second, domain data served as a product. Self-service of data, and federated governance. All of these principles help make the data available to all the stakeholders that need to get it. Let me give you just a few examples of stakeholders. They could be someone using Esri to perform geospatial analysis on data. They could be within that department or outside of that department, but they need it for a presentation or analysis, either operational or business focused for the data. You could provide all the governance controls that you would normally want to apply. It's just automated and a lot faster. I want to give a quick reference to Martin Fowler. I've been following Martin Fowler for most of my career. Back when I was a software developer, he helped me become a software architect by publishing some really good books. He was also on the front of service-oriented architecture and microservices, which helped become part of the basis for a data mesh. A quick overview. This is a solution that we were working on for one of our proposals that we were going to bid. This is for the USDA, so you'll see a lot of USDA specific references. Just to let you know, the USDA didn't provide us data. Everything that we're doing in this presentation is going to be open source. You could go Google it and find the data yourself and replicate what we did. So there's nothing sensitive here, and the USDA didn't build this. This was all Amazon Web Services as well as Cogniac Government Services that has gone through the solution on. So jumping right in, when we talk about domains, you can see here on this graph, you have the farm domain, you have conservation domain. You have your traditional data sources like relational databases, SQL Server, Oracle on the back end. And then you have operational and analytical data planes where you're performing transformations of that data to make it consumable by applications and analysis tools like Tableau, Esri, Power BI, et cetera. I also want to mention that it's also really good for making the data available for applications. So a lot of times we build single page web apps and integrations with things like Salesforce or ServiceNow. It can publish that as well. if you see in the middle of the graph, the lines, the yellow dotted lines, it's meant to represent that you can provide quick integrations across the domains. So if the conservation group or conservation domain owners need to use data from the farm domain owners, they can quickly do so. I won't go into too much details here. I want to spend most of our time on our demonstration. So I'm going to move along now. Some of the business features that you get, domain ownership. So the experts can manage the life cycle of the data. Improved discoverability. You're going to see that you're able to quickly create a catalog where users can discover data that they can use in their applications. Improved security and governance. You create an enterprise view of security and governance. There's a layer that is provided from the enterprise and allows the domain owners to granularly control it. And then obviously there's some cost optimizations that come with this. So traditionally, we're going to use a lot of ETL scripts or batch processing to move data around, which creates lots of duplication. And this way is a lot better because it's a lot more using data in place, using it where it resides. I said before, data mesh is not necessarily a technology, but more of a paradigm. But there are a set of technologies that support building a data mesh. And these are the technologies that are involved in our data mesh and likely in any that you would encounter. So data lake platforms, data governance tools, distributed data processing frameworks, all of these technologies will be required for you to build an effective data mesh. Now on to the fun part of the presentation. We're going to let Randy give you a demo. He's going to show you Data Zone. And in Data Zone, he's got a few examples of open source data that he collected from Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, APHIS, Farm Production and Conservation, which is FPAC, and Rural Development, RD. He's going to reference them by the acronym, so we wanted to go ahead and get out the detailed names for those agencies. He's going to add some tables, and he's going to build a catalog for the table and show you how we use AI to quickly and effectively build a catalog to make the data more discoverable across the enterprise. And then he's going to demonstrate how two different groups could share data and collaborate on. That being said, Randy?
All right, thank you, Paul. Let me share my screen. And thanks for joining, everybody. As Paul said, it is a classic problem of silos, having several silos within an organization. The groups within the organization, they have no idea what data is out there or even how to get access to it. And it requires a large project. Well, before Data Zone, it would require a large project just to get the ETLs built to get access to that data, just like Paul said. So AWS built Data Zone, and it's a tool that's going to conquer this problem of data silos. I want to get right into it. So let me enter the Data Zone. So I have roles in 3 different organizations within USDA, as Paul also said, RD, APHIS, and FPAC. We open this Data Zone. So my demo is going to show 2 groups seamlessly sharing data. And they do this, let's say a congressional directive comes down to the USDA. I'm using the USDA. That's the kind of data I built, this sample data. I'm going to use FPAC and RD. As mentioned before, it's Farm Production Conservation and Rural Development. And let's just go into the domain. So Data Zone uses a domain, and I've got 2 of them available. One I built in February for something fairly similar, but This USDA Enterprise Mesh is where I want to launch from. Before I open the data portal, though, I do want to show you just a little bit about it on the account associations. So this is where you would associate the different groups within the agency. 2111 is RD, 7303 is FPAC, and 4711 is APHIS, though I'm not going to be working with APHIS in this demo because I just want to keep it fairly simple between the two groups. So that's the account association is how you associate and give other groups access to your data zone. So I will go right into opening the data portal.
So one thing to note about the accounts, a lot of times that ends up being how groups are subdivided within the different agencies, right? So the Department of State, they have hundreds of accounts. We work with Defense Health Agency, lots of different accounts. USDA, same thing. So each group ends up having their own accounts, but they can share that data across the accounts, which is really removes that barrier for people like analysts that need to get the cross organizational data.
Yeah, totally. And I will show that whole process. And I'm going to start in FPAC. You can see my 3 projects. I have roles in each of the 3. That's why you'd see the 3. Otherwise, if it's just an FPAC representative, you're just going to have FPAC here to select from. So I'm going to go into FPAC. And here we are. This is data sources. Right here will show you what we have in FPAC. So these are the tables I've built out there already. FPAC crops, FPAC harvest, FPAC farms, FPAC farmers. So what I'm going to do is go into the environment, and I'm going to use Amazon Athena, open that up, to build a new table. You can use AWS Glue, you can use crawlers to pull in CSV files to create tables. I've been working with databases and SQL for 25 years or so, so I'm very comfortable with this. I like doing it this way. So I'm going to create this table. And this will only take a second or two. Now you see this on the left side of the screen, you see database FPAC Publisher DB. This is just where FPAC will publish their data. And these are the tables that we have now. I just created this FPAC heavy equipment table. So if I could just show you, just to show you the data in it real quick. FPAC heavy equipment. Run this. Okay, so we have a lot of data, sample data in the FPAC heavy equipment. So I will get out of here.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
Can I just give an overview really quick of what we're looking at in this Data Zone portal? Okay. Yeah. So Amazon Data Zone is going to be this service offering that Amazon has invested in to make it easier to centralize where the people get access to one another. So as Randy mentioned, those accounts, and Paul mentioned, are where the data will actually live. So that's what Randy just did, is seeding that data, right? But this portal is meant to be the cross account environment where you're looking at, okay, what is our catalog of all of our assets that we have? What projects do we have, which are groups of the data that belong to the accounts, right? And so your data domain owners will basically use this governance tool to administer what data do we want to show as a product. Of that data that we want to show as a product, how can people then consume or subscribe to that data? And that's where you'll see Randy do the publishing database, the subscription database. It's all interacting with how people will then log into this data portal and request access for their team.
Thanks, Brian. Brian is really in depth with this, always knows just a little bit more than me about it. So I really appreciate him on this demo. So I just created the FPAC heavy equipment table. Here it is. I'm going to open it up. Now, what it tried to do upon creation is to generate the title. It says it's fuel preparation and cleaning heavy equipment. So I'm just going to, it does its best to generate using AI to generate the title of the table. But I'm just going to update this to FPAC. And what I'm going to show you next is pretty cool. Save the changes. So we have our FPAC heavy equipment table. We haven't published it yet. We've just created it. But before I publish it, I want to use Amazon's AI capabilities. So they use generative AI machine learning to crawl through all of the data in your table, the column headers, and it's pretty impressive how it generates metadata for the table as well as all of the columns. So let's go ahead and click this, generate descriptions. And it might take up to a minute or so, but what happens here, the benefits it provides for data zone users and groups within an organization. Data discoverability is greatly enhanced. As you'll see when it's done, the summaries are very accurate. It saves time and back and forth by generating the metadata about the tables. So a potential subscriber isn't going to be asking a lot of questions of the publisher. Hey, what does this column mean? What is this data? So that's going to save a lot of back and forth as well when you take advantage of this generation. It also generates use cases. So it's done. And I'm just for the demo's purposes, I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to edit it or reject it, but I will accept it. And it creates the table summary. Like I said, remarkably accurate. And the additional thing it does for you is it provides potential use cases. So, this is going to help the people out there looking for data, looking for data they can use. It will actually tell you some of the use cases that this table and its data could help you with.
Yeah, that's a really good demonstration of generative AI, right?
Yeah, and it saves so much time, right? Because you and I, we've all been in this situation, and when I get done with developing, architecting something, the documentation takes time, and sometimes it's hard to do. So
yeah,
we let AI do it for us.
But you do have to review it. You do have to
Yes.
make sure that it's accurate because it does make mistakes, as we saw in the title of the table,
yes.
right?
Absolutely. Always want to review it. It is remarkably accurate as far as the data goes when it goes through the columns in the schema and comes up with that. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. And for the demo's sake, I just accepted it. You can go back and update it if you'd like. If you do review it, which you should. But for now, I'm going to accept all. So once it develops this metadata for you, you could reject it. I'm going to accept all. And then once you
Can you show
accept
the
it,
schema really fast so that they see what was just generated?
Yes.
Thanks. Yeah. That's what you just accepted.
Yep. So we have the column names. And just let's take equipment ID. Unique identifier for a piece of heavy equipment used in manufacturing operations. Allows tracking of individual assets for maintenance, repairs, utilization metrics, etc. Pretty accurate.
So now that's discoverable in the catalog, right, Randy?
Yes. Yes.
So you could search for that equipment, equipment
Yeah.
ID or equipment name. So instead of searching for, the system names, you get to search in plain English and find what you're looking for.
It can. So it comes up with I'll tell you, it comes up with FPAC crops 2. In here, equipment, it references equipment. In here. I won't search it. It could be the data inside, but it snakes through all of your data and pulls out what it needs. This is my data source again, and it lists all of the tables. I want to make sure I'm going to publish all of this. Once you publish it, now people can find it in the catalog. So what I want to show you now is as a rural development resource, I'm going to log in. Again, I have roles in all three, APHIS, FPAC, and RD. So I'm logged in as RD now. And, you know, I myself as RD have 5 tables. I don't really need to show them, but they have 5 tables. And what we're going to do is look for in the catalog up here on the top of the screen, we're going to look for that data that FPAC just published. So we hit the catalog icon. We see you can browse by owning projects, FPAC. And here's the table, this FPAC heavy equipment. So let me subscribe to that. And you can obviously review it in here. You can read those use cases, a potential subscriber of this table. So let's say, yes, this is the data we need per directive. I'm going to subscribe. Okay. RD needs this heavy equipment.
And for the audience, I want everybody to know that you can chime in and ask questions at any point. We do want these to be as interactive as possible. So if you have questions or something doesn't make sense to you, ask it now. Don't wait till then.
Thank you, Paul. So I've typed in my request. I'm going to click subscribe. Your request has been submitted. So at this point, I've sent this request. RD, an RD resource, will now come in and look, you see the notice right here. If it didn't pop up, you would go to the bell and it's got the indicator that says, hey, there's something you need to check out. So go in, subscription request created. And well, here's RD. They need access to the FPAC.
The person who would be looking at this subscription request would be someone from FPAC. So rural development requested the FPAC data. They clicked that subscribe. And now this is FPAC team responding to that request for data from FPAC.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. It's sometimes hard to when you're going through it. Sometimes I'll hit the details, and sometimes I'll pass over some. So thanks for picking that up. So yes, as FPAC, I see the subscription request, and I'm just going to approve it. Okay, so now RD will have access to see FPAC heavy equipment. Let's make sure the data has been replicated. I'm going to go into RD again. So logging in as RD, and I'll find out that, hey, I will have access to this data now. I'm going to go to the data tab, and I'm going to hit data sources. So in Data Zone, what data sources will do is it runs, as you can see, every day. And this just refreshes any table requests that you've been granted, any subscription requests that have been granted. It'll pull that data in there, make sure it's available for you. So I click on the data source, and I'm going to click run. And this doesn't take long at all, maybe 10 seconds, but it comes back with what you have. You have 4 subscription assets. So for RD, under subscription assets, now you see FPAC heavy equipment. That's the table we created and published and requested subscription for. So now RD says, great, FPAC heavy equipment, I've got it. So I can go in, and I'm going to use Athena again, just to show the data and show the access to it. I'll just create a quick query. You can see the table already. So again, I'm in RD. This is data that I just received access to.
And that's why you'll see on the database on the left-hand side, this is rural development's data in their subscription database. So it's not the data that they publish, but it's the data they subscribe to. So where you see sub on the left-hand side,
and that's
right
why
here. It's there. And you'll see none of the tables start with RD. They're all the APHIS and FPAC tables.
And so when I run the read against FPAC heavy equipment, I see the data. And that's
It's a
it.
real easy workflow.
It really is, and it saves so much time.
Yeah, so it's all about that permission management and streamlining the efficiencies on getting your data out from your data owners. So as Paul mentioned, having the idea of data being a product and the idea that we don't want necessarily teams to have to repeat creating the same data when there can be one data owner who is in charge of making sure that it's there's data integrity there, the data is there's authenticity to that data, then now everyone can just subscribe to that data instead of copying the data over. You're querying the data in place. And so that's the idea of the data mesh, is we're going to connect these spread out teams, these spread out nodes, but having the permission model, and under the hood, DataZone is orchestrating the underlying services that make that possible. So Athena here you'll see is one of those services that is a query engine to be able to test and validate that you do have access to that data.
Thanks, Brian. Hey, Brian, the DataZone itself is not a product we can use in all government environments, right? So do you want to talk about the relationship between DataZone and the underlying technologies to build data mesh?
Yep. So as Paul mentioned, data mesh is a paradigm that people inside of organizations who want to increase the data sharing, decrease data silos, can do through connecting nodes together and having permission models in place. So one of the services that DataZone orchestrates is lake formation. And lake formation is great for doing permissions on, do we want to have tag-based access control? Do we want to have where we're tagging our data sources, our tables, and then if you have a certain tag present on that resource, you can access it. Another way is you can do maybe like row-based filtering on what data people have access to in lake formation. But lake formation would be available for you to use. And DataZone as a layer is just really this portal and orchestrating the underlying services. So Glue Data Catalog is where, when you saw that schema definition that Randy generated, that goes into the Glue Data Catalog so that then you can discover it. And then lake formation allows the cross-account permissions. DataZone is just like this neat little UI and the workflow that oversees all this. But there are some open source solutions, and you can also build it yourself. This is just meant for, we're trying to work on rolling this out to as many customers as possible. But DataZone is how we envision the workflow being of people having a catalog to search for data, being able to request data, being able to manage permissions. You can revoke access through this portal too. So if someone published data, or if and they no longer wanted that data to be consumable from other teams, let's take that away. And having that centralized portal is something that this is not available in GovCloud, but we are aware of demand signals. And if you do have any specific use cases or workloads where it is a blocker, do let us know so that we can try to prioritize it accordingly, getting DataZone into GovCloud.
Right, but all the underlying technologies behind it are available in GovCloud.
Correct, yeah. So the only thing that would be missing is this portal piece and the workflow orchestration. So everything that makes DataZone functional under the hood, the lake formation, the Glue, the Athena, the data sources, you can run that inside of our GovCloud environments too. And it would be an interesting paradigm to potentially even just recreate this, because DataZone did the heavy thinking on what does it look like for the workflow and the acceptance criteria. But now that you have this idea of we're going to have the DataZone domain, which is the collection of data domains, and then we're going to have that centralized catalog and the searchability, all you would really need to manage is how you'd orchestrate the underlying permissions model, which is where an integrator, a system integrator would do a fantastic job, such as Cognac Government Services, implementing this in a region where we do not yet have DataZone.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that. So I want to give people a chance to ask questions. We haven't gotten any in chat. Does anyone have any questions based on what is presented? Okay, I'm going to close out then. So today we talked about DataZone, which is a product that was built by AWS and is somewhat of a reference implementation of a data mesh. We went over the principles of data mesh and how it can help you organize your data and make it available throughout your enterprise safely and within your governance paradigms. Next session is going to be about geographic information systems, and we're going to do that at the end of July after the Esri user conference. So we're excited to talk to you about those. We're going to have some collaboration from industry such as Esri come in and talk. So we will see you then in a month. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Brian, for helping put this together. And we'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everybody.